Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rafe Mair, former BC Cabinet Minister and Canada's longest-running #1 radio talk show host. Rafe, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Prime Minister Trudeau's decision to go ahead with the Kinder Morgan pipeline from Edmonton to Burnaby. Is this the first big misstep for the Prime Minister?
Well, I just don't know how to begin to describe that, Jim. It's the most foolish thing that I have ever seen a Prime Minister do, with the possible exception of Mulroney and Meech Lake. He has challenged British Columbians, and they're going to rise to that challenge. When you think about it, and British Columbians do, he's asking us to help restore the most pollutant industry in the world so that Alberta can sell that tar sands through British Columbia, with all the dangers that entails, through our coast, which is just a horror story, and sell that to the world. And we must do that as good Canadians. Not going to sell, Jim. This is a very serious matter, and Mr. Trudeau he's a marked man. I don't know how the hell he gets out of it, but I can tell you this: I know 3 or 4 dozen people who are fairly prominent in BC affairs over the years. If he'd asked any one of those, they'd have said, "Look, Mr. Trudeau, you can do a lot of things. We'll be good Canadians about a lot of things, but that's not one of them. Don't go there." And he's gone there, and we'll just have to see, I guess, but it's not going to be pretty.
Well, we've had the Natural Resources Minister tell us that they will use force to get that pipeline through.
Well, yeah, he not quite. He said if we are misbehave ourselves, I guess, but that was an absolutely unnecessary thing for anybody to say. It wasn't just unnecessary; it was highly provocative, and I just don't understand what's happened to these people. You know, as I say, I go back. I know this was a long time ago, Jim, but it was a very similar thing when it came to Meech Lake and the Charlottetown Accord, and amongst other people they were talking to. They talked to me and Gordon Gibson and Mel Smith and so on, and we all gave them the same advice. This is a step too far. British Columbians, they understand this. They're not going to take it. They see it as a shot to them, and they're going to reject it. And of course, they did by damn near 70%. And that's the same thing here. It's not rocket science. If any one of the federal cabinet ministers had sort of come out and tested the water, and I'm sure if they talked to you or talked to anybody who knows this province, they'd have said, "Mr. Trudeau, don't do that. That's a step way too far." And the people will resist that. They love their province. They love their coastline. It's very, very important to them. It's just as important to British Columbia as all sorts of sacred sites are in central Canada and elsewhere. This is something you just don't mess with our coast, and you sure as hell don't do it to sell tar sands. And he didn't listen, or he didn't ask, I guess. And if he did ask, he didn't listen. And as I say, it's a nasty situation. I don't like to predict what it's going to turn out to be, because I don't know how things are going to progress. But it's not pretty at all. I'm very scared about it.
Could you see the same thing happening here as happened in North Dakota?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. That's exactly the sort of thing that will happen. People aren't going to give up. Even I know one of the rumors is that they want to move this over through Delta, come down Fraser River, that will be a hell of a lot better. People are not going to have this. I don't know why the federal government can't recognize how much we feel, how strongly we feel about our coast, and I mean, it's something that you're not going to have 400 tankers on this coast without having a serious number of serious accidents. And when they happen, they're going to be very damaging. And people are not going to put up with it. And they're not. It's not just that they don't want to see their coast monkeyed with. And people, for example, in Howe Sound, where I live, I mean, these are normally, I'd say, small C conservative people that, you know, they don't make a fuss about anything. They'll be up in arms. They're ready to get up in arms. And why that wasn't gauged by Mr. Trudeau, I just don't know. I can't understand it, but he didn't. And he's bitten off a hell of a lot more than he can chew. And as I say, I just despair to look at the future.
Some local Liberal MPs have said they spoke out against it, but they've just hung their heads down and said, well, if the boss says we have to do it, we have to do it.
Well, I despair for people who think about that, because that's what the system is in this country. No MP is going to stand against it. They're going to try and make the best of it by telling everybody that they did what they could because they want to get reelected, but they're going to do what they're told. That's precisely what this so-called responsible government system is all about. They obey. And I'd like to make this point and have people think about it. When you go to vote for somebody, you transfer to them your rights, your civil liberties. And you have to, because we can't all go down to the town hall to vote. But what happens then is those rights are transferred by that MP to the Prime Minister. That's the step that people don't understand. The MP, in the exchange for having the party support him and so on and so forth, says, I will do what I'm told, not by the people, but by the Prime Minister. And when that switch is made, and it's made in all cases, that means democracy is over. Your hopes of getting any help out of your MP are gone, and the MP is put in a position where they either go along or they resign, and none of them had the guts to resign. So there you are. And it's terrible to see. I mean, we were watching our own MP in this riding, and people that put a lot of faith in her are now, just bitterly disappointed. And I keep trying to tell them, don't be disappointed. That's the way the system works. It always has worked that way until we change it. And I can tell you how to do it very easily, but we haven't got time right now. But until we change it, it's going to always be that way. And we're living really in a dictatorship of our own making, but it looks nice. And it doesn't feel like a dictatorship. But it is, and there's the proof.
We'll have more with Rafe Mair right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rafe Mair. You said we have basically an elected dictatorship in Canada. Is there any chance that electoral reform will come through?
Well, there are two things we were talking about there. One is the voting reform, and that's one story. The actual reform of the government, I don't know. I don't see it happening in the near future, but as I say, Jim, it is a very, very simple thing to do. I offer this. I've written a paper on this, simply called Responsible Government. If anybody wants to drop me a note at rafe@rafeonline.com, I'll be very pleased to send a copy free of charge. I'm not selling it. Now, on the question of electoral reform, you're beginning to see exactly what I've been talking about here. Here, this looked like a simple thing. We're going to change our system of reform. Let's find out what the people want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we didn't really want to find out what the people thought because we wanted to do it in Parliament, where we could make up our own minds and do it in Parliament's interest, not in the people's interest. And this is a distinction that people have to understand. It's not in the Liberal Party of Canada's interest necessarily to do it like you want to do it. They have to do it so that they're going to continue to have electoral success. So they want to fix it. And other parties are in a similar position. The thing that is stunning out of all of this, when you say to them, well, why don't you let the people decide by referendum? Oh my God, hands are thrown in the air. You can't do that. Well, I'll tell you why you can't do that, Jim, because they remember the Charlottetown Accord, and they remember that people in British Columbia and other provinces rose up and said, no, we don't like the system that the elite have put to us because it just perpetuates the elite's power. We're not going to vote for it, and they're afraid that the dummies like you and me will do the same thing again. So they have to find a way to do it and sort of jam it at us, and it's going to disintegrate. Nothing's going to happen because they just can't find a way to approve something, and the Liberals are going to go back on their promise, and we'll spend another election with first past the post. And it's too bad because we have several examples, one particular one of how we can do this. New Zealand, back starting in the 80s, they had exactly the same problem. People were saying this first past the post is wrong, it's not working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they had a series of referenda. The first one was, do you want to change from first past the post to something else? And the people voted about nearly 60% yes. So the second referendum was, here are the choices. Now, the choices are not difficult to come up with. I don't think anybody really argues about what the various options are. The options were put to the people, and they chose the option of the partial vote. I'm trying to think of what they call it now. They have a mixed member proportional. They picked that system, and they put it into place. And I was going down there, I might say, Jim, every year, sometimes twice a year, to fish. And I know New Zealand. I'm a New Zealand citizen. My dad came from there, so I know the country very well. And I would talk to people as this was going on. And and then when they changed, and people, I said, do you like this new system? No, hell no, we don't like this. It's terrible, it's terrible, terrible. Would you go back to the old system? Oh no, we wouldn't do that. So the government of New Zealand decided to have a referendum again. This is about 10 years later, saying, do you like the present system, or do you want to go back to the other one? And the people voted more to stay the way they were than they did for change in the first place. So it's in there. It's solid. The people were consulted. They don't like any system because nobody likes government systems, but they like this one the best. They know that it's their system. They approved it, and they're content. Now, it's not difficult to do that sort of thing unless you're afraid, as one of the establishment, one of the elite, that the public might do something you don't want them to do. And that's the situation in Canada. The elite have controlled this country for so bloody long, they can't stand the thought that you and me and other members of the public may rise up and say, no, we want to do it this way, and if you don't like it, too bad. They're afraid that will happen, and they have every right to be afraid because that's exactly what would happen. But that's democracy, and we're not going to get it, and I'm sad to say that.
Rafe, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
My pleasure, Jim. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Bye-bye.
My guest has been Rafe Mair, Canada's longest-running #1 radio talk show host, former BC cabinet minister, and check out his website, rafeonline.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Questions for the show can be sent to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at talkdigitalnetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.